All right, thank you for staying with Daybreak, and my guest already in studio, Honorable Dr. Pamela Odhiambo, woman representative for Migori, and Joy Mudivo, advocate of the High Court, already here with us. This is where we start our discussions. We'd like to hear from you at Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya. Use the hashtag Daybreak. So, the Court of Appeal Judge Martha Koome is now just a heartbeat away from being the country's first female Chief Justice. Koome, who topped the list of 10 candidates who sought the job, now awaits nomination by President Uhuru Kenyatta and approval by Parliament before she can ascend to the helm of the country's judiciary. Francis Gashuri has this coverage with the nomination that has elicited varied reactions in the country. Watch.
Lady Justice Martha Koome scored yet another first with her recommendation by the Judicial Service Commission to fill David Maraga's shoes as the country's top judge.
The JSC has unanimously recommended the appointment of Honorable Lady Justice Koome Martha Karabu, Judge of the Court of Appeal, as the Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya, and has submitted her name to His Excellency the President for appointment.
JSC convened a special sitting to settle on Koome just hours after the Court of Appeal shelved a High Court decision barring the Commission from deliberating on the outcome of the Chief Justice interviews or recommending a name to the President for nomination and appointment. Koome edged out 9 other contestants in the Maraga succession race.
The Commission wishes to thank all the candidates, Kenyans, and all stakeholders for their participation in the recruitment process.
Koome has 33 years' experience in the legal profession, 18 of those as a High Court and Appellate Court judge, while 15 years was spent in her law firm, as well as at Madenge and Mushemi Advocates.
So my CV is very huge. I think if I were to write everything, then it will be a confusing.
So are you saying those years were not pivotal in your...
They were years I count as practice, 15 years of practice.
So
during the interviews that were beamed live across the TV stations in the country, Koome displayed her grasp of the law and knowledge of the workings in the judiciary as an insider, and was among the front-runners in the Chief Justice contest.
The Commission wishes to congratulate Honorable Lady Justice Martha Koome for becoming the first woman Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya.
The Commission, however, declined to make public the order of performance by the 10 candidates it interviewed for the head of judiciary after days of speculation on who would clinch the coveted job.
No, our duty was to select the best candidate, and that is the name we have given you. Thank you very much.
If cleared by Parliament and appointed by the President, Koome's entry in the office of Chief Justice will include the appointment of 40 judges who the head of state has declined to appoint, sparking a stalemate between the executive and judiciary. How she would resolve the standoff, one of the pertinent questions she tackled during the interviews.
So we must discuss this issue of 41 with the President in that atmosphere of we are serving Kenyans, all of us, and we are concerned about the administration of justice, and we find out where the problem is, resolve it, and get the judges in office.
If appointed, mending the broken relationship between her predecessor and the President would also be a point of focus.
When the CJ is seen with the President, they are discussing matters on administration of justice, that everybody is responsible. It's not a beauty contest who serves Kenya better. Is it the executive, the judiciary? We are all in it. So if the judiciary is failing, the economy is failing because disputes are not being resolved. The President gets affected and everybody gets affected.
JSC has formally written to the President, communicating its recommendations for his nomination and subsequent transmission of Koome's name to Parliament for vetting. Appellate Court Judge Martha Koome becomes the first female nominee for appointment as the country's Chief Justice. However, only one hurdle stands in her way: the vetting by the National Assembly Legal Affairs Committee and approval by the National Assembly before appointment by the President as the third Chief Justice under the Constitution enacted in 2010. Francis Gashuri, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
And that's where we begin. Dr. Pamela, I'll start with you. What was your reaction when you saw that announcement by the JSC?
My reaction is happiness. One, I think I like the idea that the search by this panel was done in the public eye, and I believe all Kenyans watched and witnessed the presentations of all these candidates. And I think majority seem to have been satisfied. Koome put up a good presentation. I think even me, I watched it, and I didn't mind her presentation.
Okay.
And what I think I like about her best is that in issues of graft and so many cases surrounding, you know, personal or office abuse and all those kind of things,
Yeah.
I think she seemed to have scored less, as in it was not as much.
Yeah.
And then, for the sake of my tribe called the woman, I think I'm very excited that we have reached a level where Kenya can practically consider a woman for this kind of seat. Because in the past, it has looked like it is a reserve for the male. You know, we have had a kind of patronage where it is always thought that women are not able to take, especially very hard decisions.
Yeah.
But I think women are the best example of people who can really take serious hard decisions.
Yeah.
Imagine a young girl like me growing up to the age of 20 and above in their fathers and mothers' comfort. And then one day they just decide, oh, I'm living here and I'm going to live with some other man somewhere in the name of a husband. And they plunge themselves there and make themselves comfortable. And this is a very tough decision because people are always afraid of the unknown. Yeah. So I think it is a proof that we are growing. And in this case, I want to plead with the nation that let it not be another gender battle, you know, the battle of the sexes, female and male. I think I'm happy that we are reaching a level where the women of Kenya are affirming and confirming that actually we merit it.
Okay.
We have what it takes to occupy whichever position and perform. So on that note, I think it is an encouragement to the girl child out there. Don't just sit there and say, oh, I'm a girl, I can't do this, I can't do that. No. If she goes through, like I wish her well, you know, we are coming, it's coming to our desk to approve or disapprove. So I may not want to divulge much, but from the tribes of women position, I think I want to wish her well.
Okay. All right, Joy?
I was absolutely elated by the selection for various reasons. First and foremost, all the rumors that were swirling before the selection even happened. Oh, this has been selected for this one, the preserve for this one. So even when the short list came out, her inclusion in the list, in my opinion, was the first, Judge Koome actually applied for this. It was very telling that none of the Supreme Court judges threw their hat in the ring. So for her to step up from the Court of Appeal was something that was very welcome. But once the decision was rendered, one of the first things that came to my mind was, we actually have got a Chief Justice nominee who is very competent, because like Dr. Pamela has said, when we were watching the interviews, immediately after her interview, the reviews online, even from myself, was, you know what, I was actually very pleasantly surprised at how strong she was, how articulate she was, how forthright she was with her answers, her demeanor, how she carried herself through the interview. It was very grueling. You're sitting there for a stretch of 5-6 hours, and she survived it all. So when the name comes out, and I think that's the benefit of these public interviews. I'm not a fan of them, but that's the benefit of it. It's not something that when the name comes out, you're like, how did they arrive at that decision? Those of us who watched the interviews are like, you know what? She was actually among the top contenders. And the fact that the decision was unanimous by the Judicial Service Commission also tells me that they had a discussion about it, and at the end of the day, she was the candidate they all felt comfortable with to settle on. So there's still challenges here and there with the cases in court and this and that, but I think barring something major happening at the desk of Waheshimiwa, we have the next Chief Justice, and I'm very, very glad that she happens to be a woman.
All right. Dr. Pamela, you know there's been a question, and I see Professor Alfred Omenya here answered it very well on Twitter. He says we can't have 2 women heading the judiciary, question mark. Then he says, yes, we can. We do. Kenyans on Twitter is speculating that Justice Mwilu cannot be DCJ while Justice Koome is CJ. Why not? Uhuru and Ruto are heading the executive. The legislature is headed by a bunch of men. Why can't the judiciary be headed by 2 women? Is this an issue that we should even be discussing?
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Because, well, I'm not a lawyer. Justice is here. She will help us. But I don't think there is anywhere where so far it is said that in the judiciary,
yeah,
we cannot have 2 females heading it. In fact, in the past, before even Mwilu came in, we had 2 males heading it.
Yeah.
There was a male Chief Justice and a male deputy. And on top of that, I think Mwilu's time or appointment as deputy has not expired. So I would be very surprised that we would just wake up to demote her and remove her from this seat just because Koome comes in. And somebody has said it very nicely. I don't have to belabor on this. Yeah. Currently, as we sit here, the president is a male, the deputy is a male, and in many, many other institutions, I think the same still applies. Yeah. So much as we are appreciating that we should be having a scenario in Kenya moving forward where when we have a chief executive, a male, you know, that zebra alternating thing, just yeah, to bring in the other mind that can stabilize things. You know, where male things like this, yeah, sometimes the females can come in to tone down and neutralize and you know, the best thinking. Yeah. That is the whole idea, the spirit behind having a male and a female, just like we run our homes, yeah, in this manner. Mm-hmm. So even in our institutions, bringing up the mind of a male and a female together to make the best quality decisions, yeah, is the spirit behind this. But for now, I think I would not recommend that Mwilu be thrown out of this seat before our time expires or just because Koome has come in. Yeah. I think moving forward, both of them are qualified. I believe I like Mwilu. She has worked in Kenya. She has also made it, and I believe she merited that seat. So yeah, by the mere fact that a female has been appointed, I don't think it would be fair, yeah, to judge and say now we need a male. By the time that vacancy falls, yeah, if they interview them again and a male is qualified, fine. If another female is qualified, again, it would be fine. Okay. But I think Kenyans, we need to be sober. Okay. And sometimes we don't have to be very petty and minor in scrutinizing things which really don't make sense.
Okay. Joy, is there anywhere where this becomes a concern?
Even in the BBI, they tried to say if you have a governor of one gender, you need to pick a deputy governor running mate of another gender. Yeah. And they said, no, we can't do that. So even in the judiciary, no, we can't do that. Even if we have got 6 women leading the judiciary, yeah, mutazoea. And there's a reason I'm saying this, and I'm using that hashtag of mutazoea over and over. Yeah. Is because I have said here before, when we've got discussions about the 2/3 gender rule, it's always like women are trying to get a leg up, you're trying to get free things. And I've kept saying the way the girl child has been empowered and how she is developing in our society, it is not unforeseeable that there'll come a time on merit that women will be in more places of prominence more dominantly than men, and it will be the men needing that rule to be enforced. The legal fraternity and the judiciary is a good example of that. These women have risen through the ranks on merit. Yeah. They have studied amongst their male counterparts. They have worked for several years. You have experience as your male counterparts. They have aggressively gone for positions. And law is a sort of degree that lends the male and the women, the men and the women, to both aggressively pursue things. Yeah. So you come to a place, look at the Law Society of Kenya. Look at our council, not just the National Council, the Nairobi Council, the Mombasa Council. Look at the composition of judges and magistrates. Look at the concentration, the ratios of the men and the women. In the legal fraternity, if Kenyans would like to study the balancing and unbalancing of genders, look at the legal fraternity. We've come to a place where there's this clip going around of all the women leading in the judiciary. Before long, that will be the, not just a kaleidoscope in the law society, that will be the Kenyan society. So get used to women earning positions on merit. Because that thing of, oh, you're always deputizing, you just want to be flower girls, there'll come a time that will not be the case. But moving the agenda also on talking about gender in terms of both sexes and not just saying gender to mean women. You know, you enter a meeting and there's one woman, they say, oh, gender has come. We need to come to a place where we understand, as Dr. Pamela says, right brain, left brain things. We bring different perspectives to the table, but in terms of competence, training, the temerity to lead, women are just as capable as men. And we've come to a place, I think, even as a society, we are more accepting of that. So DCJ Mwilu and CJ, hopefully Koome, are going to lead not just the Supreme Court. They're also going to lead the judiciary. And as we were saying off air, I hope that now with a woman in the head, we're going to see a different style of leadership, hopefully more conciliatory, that will yield better results for Kenyans. Because if she wins, Kenya wins.
But the perception created joy. That's where the issue is. Because you just said the left side and right side brings different perspectives. If one side of leadership, and this applies across board, not just the judiciary, because the Koome has been nominated, across board, even in the executive, it seems like the men are always given a free pass. It is almost perceived to be safer with the guys up there, but not a complete set of women. How do we then change that perception that is created around our side will now feel like we will not stand a chance there?
It is the dying kicks of patriarchy, I think. Okay, not yet dying kicks, because patriarchy is still very strong. Because even amongst women, they feel more safe and secure when they see a man at the helm. So if you're talking, okay, now, like, with us, we have activism, maybe blood flowing in us. So that may not be the case. But if you look at regular women, they'll be more at peace if they have a boss who's a gentleman than a lady. Oh, women bosses are harsh, women bosses are this and that. There are those stereotypes. But when you see more women ascending, and if we are active in ensuring that our service is distinguished, such that you do well, and then the women who come after you find the shoulders to climb to get to even greater heights. But because the women who have gotten so far have had to fight so much, sometimes we get that perception of they're hard women, they're harsh women, they are the women who are hard-headed, they cannot submit in their homes. And that stereotype has also gotten to a place where women themselves fight that progressiveness. They perpetuate patriarchy. That perception will change by hopefully having more women in places of authority who are delivering things that Kenyans need. So like yesterday, I felt it was a big win for women, not just for Judge Koome. Even when I was watching CS Farida doing the thing with Athisasa, land has been such a thorn in the flesh for many years. It's taken a woman minister to come and just move the needle for Kenyans. We had another woman minister in that place who did not achieve as much for the set of circumstances she was dealing with. But CS Farida has managed to move that needle for Kenyans. Such good examples, I agree with Dr. Pamela, actually inspire the upcoming women leaders to even do better. And not just that, set the standard for, just in case it's a man who comes after, we already know how well this place can be run. Don't take us back.
Dr. Diambo, that is where the issue
let me just add something to what she's saying. You know, the concept of people thinking that we are safer with a man at the top emanates from the societal upbringing, and it also combines with the physiology and the strength associated with this physique. You know, the society has brought up men and women to believe that men are strong, they are fighters, they can protect, they can, you know, stand on their own. But again now, where we are coming to work and delivery of services and decision making, we really don't need the physical strength. We need the mental strength. We need the emotional strength. We need the competence. We need the capability and the skill that somebody has. And in this sense, that's why we are glad, and our urge and prayer for some of us who are still down here and we are hoping to climb higher We want these women who are in positions of leadership to prove to the world and to everybody else around them that it is safe even with women. For example, I think in Kenya, we already know we have women pilots, and we have seen them fly the plane and land them safely, just like men would do. So I think we need to transform our attitude. We need to transform our thinking. We need to transform our basis for argument so that in our offices and in the place of work, we really don't need to fight physically. But even where fighting physically is required, I believe the women have proved, even in the world of boxing, that they can actually do boxing. But you see, the nature, the inner being of the woman is tender. And therefore, we wouldn't like to go physical all the time. And that is also a plus, according to us. Instead of going to a boardroom and then people are fighting physically, they are not able to agree. The women would say, wait a minute. Yes, if we cannot agree now, then hold this thing and let's sleep over it. Come again tomorrow. And you know, the women sometimes, again, when they are emotionally overwhelmed, you know, they have a way of crying it out, even if it is in the toilet, and then they get relieved and they think soberly again. And I think what we are saying is that the strength of the woman, and especially in regards to the positions of leadership, is not just in their physique. It is in the competence, it is in the skill, it is in their ability to endure and the patience to sometimes weather things which look very fragile. To me, I think we are going on the right track, and as we move on, slowly but surely, we will be able to demystify some of these cultural beliefs that really do not hold any water anymore. Of course, where we want masculine, if it is lifting this table at once, I will allow Trevor to do that because their muscle is actually meant for that. Yes.
And you know, that's the other issue that we're still talking about. We are actually in a trajectory where that patriarchy and all that is becoming a thing of the past, but there's still a bit of remnants here and there. As a CJ, as a female CJ, the kind of scope or the kind of laser beam focus that will be on her will be much more different. There are certain things that a man can get away with, but not a woman, even if it's the exact same mistake. How then would she navigate that slight path whereby her judgment will be much more harsh than if it was a male counterpart, even if they make the exact same ruling?
If we look at Judge Koome as an individual, I think it's almost like she was tailor-made for this position. Because with starting her career out in activism, the years that she spent in activism in FIDA, that has a way of hardening you and making you like steel. Because you're an alloy, really, because you have your femininity, but you have to take on a warrior-like spirit, especially the time when she was in FIDA. That was when the women lawyers were just emerging. And you remember they had to come out guns blazing almost all the time because the stereotypes against them, the societal backlash was such that for you to stand, you needed to have been made of a certain, to have a certain metal. So she has that. Then she was part of the second liberation as well. When we were in the clamor of getting multipartism, she's one of the few women who are in the front lines and in the trenches in fighting the quote-unquote fighting, because we said it wasn't physical, but in agitating for the repeal of Section 2A and the ushering of the second liberation. Then moving on, she joined the judiciary, and that was a new learning scope as well. So from 2003 until now, she's had time to look at it from the inside. Because you know, when you're fighting and you're on the outside, you also need a chance to learn the workings from the inside. So in terms of being tailor-made for this position, she has been tried and tested, and I think she has been proven that she can handle that with grace and with poise. But over and above that, you are right. Remember the infamous comparison of Nancy Baraza pinching the nose and Kidero slapping Shebesh. And guys were like, you know what? This one gets sent packing from her job, and this one is made governor. And all he does is make some half-hearted apology. It is true, women are judged by a different standard. And that's what I'm saying now for her. The one way to silence critics, nobody argues with results. Facts are stubborn. if you get there and your leadership is so drastically different and it delivers results, it's something that nobody can argue with. Let's just look next door at President Suluhu. When she came in, remember she had to make that statement of, some of you are wondering if you have a president. I want to let you know that you have a president, and I am she. And soon after that, she started making changes. So we're used to the late President Magufuli charging in and, you know, upsetting everything and overturning tables. But her, she would just walk in and she would say, tafadhali nataka sehemu ile iangaliwe na mtu fulani. It is taratibu, but at the end of the day, she has done the exact same thing, but with a different style. So she might face harsher criticism. You can be sure the rest of us who are cheering her on will defend her to the hilt from the sidelines. But at the end of the day, I am sure she's the type of person who can absorb the criticism and still deliver. She's got 9 years to do this. And I'm sure at the end of her tenure, history will judge whether we made the right choice with her as Chief Justice or not.
Dr. Pamela, you know, she's coming in at a time where the executive and the judiciary relationship seems to be very strained. What should her entry look like at this particular moment as she thinks of coming in, as she waits for the final approval from Parliament? What should her entry be looking like? Where should she prioritize her focus?
I think her entry should look very crazy, but she must look at it and handle it with a lot of care. The case of strained relationships between the executive and the judiciary, I think she needs, now that she's been from within, I want to think she must be having an idea. Where did the rain start beating them and what can be done about it? Does she want to go that way or bring some healing and reconciliation? What is it that the executive was not happy about, and what is it that the judiciary was not happy about? Where was their point of departure? To me, I think that should be a priority. Why? Because it has that strained relationship. We saw a point where the outgoing Chief Justice was almost crashing, you know, when things are cajoled, and to the extent that even there are no finances to do what you ought to do, there are not enough personnel to do what you ought to do, then these are ways of failing you silently, even if you are more than capable, but you are not given the right prerequisites and the environment to deliver. So I think this is something that needs to be sorted out very urgently. And even the issue of this serious stalemate about the appointment of some 41 judges, it has been a concern for everybody in the nation, even those of us who are not executives, because what is the actual stalemate in this? If there is Judge A, B, C, D, who the president thought was not fit for whatever report they got about them, then we need to isolate things. They need to go back to the drawing board and give us the judges that can be appointed, because you see, cases are piling up, and they are piled up in Kenya. Everybody is unhappy, to be honest, with the judiciary. In fact, majority of us think that the judiciary has failed this country, because when you take a case and it is taking forever to be decided, then what happens? And so faith has eroded. People think that the judiciary is malicious, they don't want to do the right thing, but there could be underlying issues. So those issues need to be sorted out. And then, as she comes in, I would wish that we don't also see a system where she's just changing things for the sake of changing them just because she's new. She needs to study the system. Is there anything good that has been there? Because my dream as a Kenyan, I'm looking forward to a Kenyan where will be some principles that we base our operations that anybody else cannot change. You know, things that we agree on. So the predecessor, are there some good systems, good things that he set in place that he needs to uphold? She needs to uphold. I think that is important. And where there is a need to be changed, how is she going to introduce this change? Yes, some may be radical, but I think a transformational change most of the time is the best, because it almost carries everybody along with it, and it doesn't leave any serious casualties in the process. But Kenya is looking for a judiciary we can trust. When I reach a judge, then I know whether I'm poor, whether I'm rich, whether I'm small or big, whether I'm in position or not, a woman or a man, from their tribe or not. Like, I really pray that Martha Koome helps Kenyans to demystify and forget about this issue of I will be judged better because maybe, like today I was looking at a video which was some girl is purporting that she is an aunt, you know. This is my aunt, this is my uncle. You know, that level-mindedness where she treats all Kenyans and the whole judiciary treats all Kenyans equally and fairly without that restoration of faith in our judicial system, I think is the greatest portion of what she needs to do in her entry. And the sooner she starts making steps towards that restoration, the better for the country.